Welcome, everybody, to episode 165 of the DC Comics News Podcast. I'm Brad Flicky, your co-host. Joining me today is the Geek Encyclopedia himself, Steve J. Ray. How you doing, Steve?
I'm great, brother. Always lovely to get on the mic and discuss all good things DC with you, my friend.
Yes, always good stuff going on.
Oh yeah, lots of news.
Yeah. So we can jump right in here. Start with some movie news. And amidst all the other announcements that have happened, it looks like the Constantine sequel is still moving forward, which was to me surprising. What about you?
Extremely surprising. I'd much rather have Batgirl, thanks. Let's be honest. The Constantine movie, the first one, was a good film. But it wasn't a Constantine film in any way, shape, or form. It should have just been called Demon Hunter and had a different character because, and let me, full disclosure here, I'm a huge Keanu Reeves fan. I love his work. I love every film he's made, but this is not a Constantine film. Yes, it might fall under the umbrella of Elseworlds that James Gunn's announced, but there's films I'd much rather have than a film that was okay 20 odd years ago. Pass. That's my exact thoughts on this story. What about yourself? You a bit happier about it? Or?
I'm a little more happy about it, although I do agree with you that it didn't feel like a Constantine film or Constantine film.
Yeah,
as the debate goes, but I kind of like how over the years this film has kind of gotten a cult following. It didn't have much of a reputation when it came out, but now people are starting to appreciate it more, and I find that kind of interesting. And I don't think that Keanu Reeves would just throw his name on something that he didn't believe in, and he's got a good track record, so that leaves me a little bit optimistic. I don't think I'd be going into this film expecting it to feel like a Constantine film exactly, but I would take it for what it is, so it might be enjoyable. And I'm a little curious. James Gunn has talked about how every single thing will be connected, so even if it's in Elseworlds, I'm wondering how that would work. I'd be curious to see. I'm not over the moon about it, but I'll take it. I mean, I could definitely see myself going to see this in the theaters. Just I would keep my expectations in check.
I think it'll be a decent film because the first one was good, but it's just not Constantine. So why label it as such, and why have it as a DC movie? That's the only thing. Well, we'll discuss more later ahead because we have got news about the film I'd rather have. So let's move on to something I am happy about. And that's the brand new, gorgeous Flash teaser poster with Barry Allen standing front and center in what looks like the Batcave with the Batwing looming over him. Fantastic image. That's got me very excited. What about you?
Absolutely. I just love how front and center Batman is. Because that's really one of the things that I'm most excited about is how Batman is going to be integrated into this film. I mean, there's been so much hype between Michael Keaton and showing the Batmobile under the tarp. So I love just my main thing about this, just how front and center Batman seemed to be in the whole thing. And taking Ezra Miller out of it, this is probably the single most anticipated film this year, just because there's a lot riding on it for what's coming next in the DC film universe. So I'm excited for that. So anything. I mean, we're now here in America. We're recording this the day before the Super Bowl.
Yes.
And I've kind of got my fingers crossed that we might see a Flash trailer surprise drop.
Just over 2 hours. I might actually stay up and look out for it online myself.
Yeah, so I'm kind of wondering if also because they released this right before the Super Bowl, if we're gonna get a surprise. So I'm not into football at all, but I will try to follow the commercials to see. So I have my hopes kind of high for that.
I'm just gonna keep my eye on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. So you don't have to worry about the game. Just watch it on YouTube.
Because we won't get the football here, so
Yeah. You're not missing much.
we get some random sport called soccer instead, which I'm
Yeah.
not a fan of either.
Yeah. And up next, James Gunn released another image of Superman. In Twitter, just to get people excited, and it also is an image from the upcoming Action Comics. I don't want to call it a relaunch, but the dawn of DC stuff going on. So, what was your take on this?
Well, it's a beautiful piece of art. It's stunning. And what I've noticed with everything that Gunn's posting, particularly about Superman, is it is a fairly radical departure from what we've had with Henry Cavill, who was a more grounded, more realistic, more gritty Superman. This seems to be a lot more blue skies, smiles. Are we going to have something like a hybrid between the classic Christopher Reeve Superman, a Superman who loved being Superman, and the modern day Superman? As someone who's, I don't know. I mean, I'm getting the feeling that what we're going to have is the great American apple pie classic Superman of yesteryear. And now, don't get me wrong, I love that. He is the world's greatest hero for a reason, the first and the one that all others came from. But is that image something that will work with a modern audience? Because though it breaks my heart to say this, a lot of people I speak to look at the Superman movies from Richard Donner and Christopher Reeve and what came in the late 70s and 80s and think, well, that's just dated and outmoded. But don't we need that kind of good real hero, that good archetype to look forward to, that good role model? So let's see what happens. Or because they're saying casting young and starting from scratch, I'm even thinking, are they going to go for a John Kent Superman? I'm just really thinking that these images are so brilliant. I mean, the other one he posted later on today was Superman over the world, and city lights down below are formed in the shape of an S symbol, like the people are calling out to him. So I'm getting a lot of really positive, almost hero worship vibes for this version of Superman. So intrigued is the word I'd use for my feelings about this one. What about yourself?
Yeah, you give me a lot to think about. Kind of. I think base level, I think it's a cool bit of cross promotion to get a little hype going for the new phase of Action Comics. But you're right; it's a very timeless image, a very heroic image. And I think we always need the apple pie Superman. I think if it's done well, and it can be,
agreed,
there could be some way to make that seem modern, and I think that is what we're going to get. I think that those images, you're right. I think that they do kind of point to that kind of Superman, and I think that's something that's kind of missed. I don't know, as much as I like Henry Cavill, I don't know how much of a gritty Superman really works. I think Superman is that larger than life, heroic, love to be Superman type. You don't necessarily need the grittiness in Superman. So I'm kind of hoping that's what we get. And I wasn't on last week to talk about the new slate, and I have a little bit of mixed feelings about it. As much as and I don't want to get off the subject, but one of my favorite ideas in that slate is the new Superman movie.
Yeah,
because I think they can do it in a very old school, very traditional Superman type of way, and they can do it well. I'm a little bit, as much as I want a Booster Gold movie, that seems like a very James Gunn type of character. And so, and I made my point that I kind of want to see his imprint a little less. And as much as I want a Booster Gold movie, that I think that's going to have James Gunn's footprints all over it. And I just hope that it works. So so I'm going into that slightly mixed feelings. But the Superman movie and it is not one that I have mixed feelings about, and I kind of like the idea of it being a younger Superman.
Definitely.
I don't I don't know if it would be a Jonathan. I think they should stick with Clark Kent, but
Agreed.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and these images give me hope.
Because there aren't any real heroes on screen anymore. They are all dark or anti-heroes or ground level heroes or violent heroes. So I think having the classic Superman return it's about time, and they can do it well. If we look at Byrne's era, the Man of Steel that John Byrne launched, it was the perfect synthesis. It was the classic true hero of yesteryear, but with a modern twist. And if you throw in stories like Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale's Superman for All Seasons as well, those stories were born to be films. They just cinematic in their approach from day one. If that's the kind of Superman they're going for, which these images also scream at to me, that would be the perfect Superman to start a new DCU with. I mean, personally, that's what I think.
The Byrne Man of Steel era is my favorite era of Superman comics, so I'd be all about that for sure.
Sign us up
about it. Yeah, every time we talk about it a couple times. It always makes me want to go and reread those, especially that original.
I did. I pulled them all out.
Yeah, yeah, those bring back some good memories. Those stories and the art. I'm all for it. And also, keeping on the James Gunn kick, he seems like he has talked to Zack Snyder about his concepts and ideas for DC moving forward. What was your take on this?
Brilliant, because it will hopefully quiet the minds and the voices of the almost militant Snyder fans out there. I mean, I'm a huge Zack Snyder fan. I love everything that man's made, I'll be honest. But he wanted the same thing James Gunn did. He wanted a DC universe that was cohesive. He had a plan set out. But Warner Brothers, in their infinite lack of wisdom, forced his hand, made him do Batman versus Superman, then stole Justice League from under him after a tragedy, a personal family tragedy, and he had to step away and ruin the plans he had. If his plan had succeeded, if he'd have made the films he wanted to make, the DCU might be in a much more stable position than it is now. So I think he just said, listen, I've had my time. It didn't work. The execs had too much power. Now we've got a DC Studios. Finally, we have a DC Studios, which seems to have some level of independence from big Warner Brothers. And he's obviously put his support, and that's huge of him. I'm not surprised, because I don't see Zack Snyder, whenever I've seen him in interviews, whenever I've come across his work, as being a big-headed, egotistical kind of man. Everyone who's worked with him loves working with him, says he's a wonderful director to work with and a nice human being. So I'm not surprised that he's put his support behind James Gunn, because James Gunn just wants to do what he wanted to do when he had the reins. So brilliant. That just makes me happy, and maybe it'll, like I said, quieten the slightly more negative or blinkered aspect of fanhood that's out there in the DC universe. But that's just my take. What did you think?
Yeah, I think if they had talked and they didn't agree and Zack Snyder wasn't pleased with the idea, I think they still would have said this. So this is very front-facing, positive message to put out there. But I do think that you're right, that it is going to silence a bit of the negative fans out there. And I think to a point, if you want to move forward with these DC films and going back to that cohesive vision, at some point you gotta forget what the fans are saying, because a whole big section of the fans that love Zack Snyder now, we're talking smack about
absolutely.
So, there's fair weather. I mean, you can't listen to the mob. You just have to move forward, and and if this is true and they did have that good conversation, you made the point, well, Zack's really happy with the world building that he's doing now, and that's great. But just leaving that door open in any capacity down the road to get him involved, because I think one thing is Zack Snyder had a really good concept of these characters and where they stand. Kind of rejecting Marvel's idea of the world outside your window and making these guys are gods, and it's a whole different thing. And his approach to that was pretty effective, especially when they let him do what he wanted to do. So it's nice to just maybe think that in some capacity we still have Zack Snyder in our back pocket down the road. So who knows?
Well, after Sony's interference with Spider-Man 3, the director, blimey, his name escapes me at the moment, and I love his work. Here we go. Said that he doubted he'd ever work for Marvel again. But hey, after Spider-Man No Way Home, he came and did Multiverse of Madness, and it was vintage. It was brilliant. It was really, really good. So fingers crossed with the piece made, we might still get a Zack Snyder DC movie further down the line, but obviously one that isn't hindered or overrun by Warner Brothers. And on that subject, let's talk about Batgirl, a film you and I think everyone on the team really, really wanted, and were very sad when it was cancelled. But Brendan Fraser, may he live forever, has finally broken his silence and said what he thinks, and I'm with him 100%. What did you make of the article on Brendan Fraser's thoughts on the Batgirl movie?
I really am bummed that we didn't get to see more of the Glasgow as Gotham. The way he made it sounded. He said it was a perfect piece of casting Glasgow as Gotham, and I really wish we could have seen that. Everything about that. This whole thing, it just really bumps me out. I think in the entire time that we've been doing this podcast, that is the one story that has bummed me out the most. And as far as it being a half-baked film, with a test screening, and don't show something before it's ready, I don't know how much that played into Warner Brothers' decision. I think at the end of the day, it wasn't about the quality anyway. It came down to money. I think they like to hide behind the fact that they said it was a bad test screening, it wasn't really watchable. I think that's nonsense, because even if it was a bad test screening, they can change it. So I love Brendan Fraser, but I don't know how much the test screening really played into Warner Brothers' decisions. But I just really, really wish that we could have seen this movie. It's just such a shame that we didn't.
It's heartbreaking, and I agree with you 100%. It's nonsense, and Brendan's just trying to maybe make sense of it all by saying that you shouldn't judge a film on a test screening anyway, because, as you say, it's not finished. That's not what the film's going to look like. Don't listen to that. And surely test screenings of Joss Whedon's Justice League can't have been fantastic. And how did films like, again, I keep coming back to it, how did films like Halle Berry's Catwoman ever get released? Yes, she was great, and she looks fantastic, but that film was a complete mess, and it still saw the light of day. So I'm sorry, nothing, even in a test screening unfinished film, could have been as bad as some of the films that have been released and seen the light of day. So, but I love the way that Brendan stood up for it, said that what they shot was fantastic. It was finished. It was going into post-production, and that would have made it perfectly watchable. It's lovely that he said that, but it almost rubs salt in the wound, saying that, another reason for it not to be cancelled. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's Warner Brothers wanting to go in a different direction, wanting to save money, claim as a tax write-off, and that's that. So, yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah. The one movie that we will be seeing is Shazam: Fury of the Gods, and we did get another TV spot as we get closer to the release date. So, what do you think of this TV spot?
It was like shortened highlights of the second trailer, really, wasn't it? Lovely. I mean, Zachary Levi's enthusiasm, the set pieces, the cast, everything about this film is screaming to me quality. Everything about this film is screaming to me family viewing. This is a movie you can go and see in the theatre and you know you're going to enjoy it. You're going to have fun. So that's it. That's all I really care about. The TV spot was less than a minute of fun. And we need comic book movies that people can enjoy. I mean, while I'm more of a fan of the darker stuff, I've got plenty of room for a fun, family-based action movie. And there were plenty of dark moments in the first one. And with these villains, I still think there are going to be a few in the second one as well. I mean, come on, dragons and Shazam calling the villain Khaleesi.
Yeah, that was great.
Love it. Absolutely love it. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I agree. I love that this is something for the whole family. And, you know, when you say for the whole family, what that generally means is, well, the kids can go to it too and like it. But in this, what I think this, when I say it right now for this, is that it's something that also the adults will enjoy. That was something that was really good about what about the first one was that everybody could enjoy it. And it knew what to do with the character. It knew who the character was, and that's very important getting to these films. And everything I've seen about the second one is that way. And I think that it was stuff, most of the stuff we've seen before, but that little more dialogue from the pediatrician at the very beginning gives a little more of the character-driven part of the movie. And I think that that was kind of that makes me excited for it too. So it's going to, you know, like you said, we're going to have layers. It's not going to just be people hitting each other for 2 hours, you know. And I think that, yeah, I think this is going to be good.
Absolutely, I agree. It's going to be a family film for the right reasons. It's not just going to be one for the kids. It's one we can all watch, and different audiences will get different messages and get different jokes. And that's the kind of film I really, really like. And that's what the first Shazam had too. But this one's come right out of left field after a comic book crossover and the announcement good few years ago now of the collaboration between DC and Rooster Teeth. We're now actually getting animated movies, plural, because this is part one. We've had a trailer for Justice League RWBY Superheroes Huntsman Part 1, and a pretty cool trailer it was. And because it's you, I love these new redesigned superhero costumes for our favorites. You've got to have an opinion on that. This looks pretty cool.
Yeah, that was going to be my big takeaway from this trailer. Is the look of the characters, that very anime inspired, whether it's the costumes and just the look of the animation overall. And what we saw, the story, it seems like a very cool but humorous YA novel come to animated life. And that makes me think that this could really capture the zeitgeist right now, between as popular as anime is and YA. I think that there's a certain audience that this is catered to, and it's a pretty big audience that could really love it. I mean, as it is, Rooster Teeth is pretty huge, so DC was kind of smart to partner with them, and it just looks like a lot of fun. Like most of these animated DC movies. I mean, I think everybody here on this podcast is a fan of the animated movies, and DC has always got those animated movies right. I mean, from the very beginning. So I think this is another, continuing that tradition. It looks like, this looks like a lot of fun.
It's a fantastic partnership, definitely. Mm-hmm. And what's great about it is, I mean, I don't know if it's similar in the US, but in recent years, manga and anime have actually started outselling superhero books here in the UK. Huge following. And this is, like you said, the perfect little product to get both fans of both genres interested in reading one or the other. If it gets anime and manga fans into reading DC books and DC fans into reading reading manga and watching anime, then everybody wins again. So nice.
Yeah, I'm all for manga. If it brings kids into comic shops or even bookstores, I'm there for it.
Anything that gets people reading. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. And with that, we're going to move into some TV and streaming news. And man, the Flash showrunner has teased what could have been the next crossover in the CW Arrowverse world, and it would have been Blackest Night. Man, what could have been? What do you think of this?
This kind of news breaks my heart because honestly, that whole saga, that whole storyline was just great. It married superheroics, huge cosmic dramas, horror. It was just great, and they were teasing it. Diggle's character, and oh man, I almost wish they hadn't told us this, because now you just think, oh, what could have been? But hey, it seems like we're getting some kind of death metal crisis Flashpoint kind of thing instead. And Josh, our editor-in-chief, shared a very intriguing image, and I'm not going to give too much away because I don't want to spoil too much, but we are definitely, it's no longer a rumor, we are definitely getting the Red Death in the final season of The Flash. But Red Death's identity is a huge twist and a massive surprise. So we may not be getting Blackest Night, but what we are getting looks pretty cool anyway, so I can deal. What about yourself?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I wish we could have seen it. But also, I'm trying to look ahead as all these new announcements come down and these new plans, and thinking that maybe what we have in store is really cool. Like we say, even with the show, we got Red Death. So I'm very optimistic about where things are going. And I think that we'll still get some cool stuff. And you know what? If nothing else, we may not have gotten Blackest Night, but we did get a Crisis on Infinite Earths that was much better than I ever thought it was going to be, or even should have been, given that it was on network TV with all the restraints that they have on them. But that actually exists, and we got it, and it was done well. So no matter what, we had that, and I don't want to get too upset about what could have been, instead of just focusing on what is or what was and what will be. So yeah, that's my take.
There you go. The DC Comics News broadcast team, paragons of positivity, will never let the bad news get us down. We'll always be glasses half full, and we have no kryptonite. Damn it.
That's how I am, because
absolutely.
You notice I don't say a whole lot of negative stuff like, oh, I'm not looking forward to that, because I think there's always potential in these ideas. It may not always get it, but there's always potential, and I'm always rooting that we get something good rather than something bad. And I think right now, I think that we're in a pretty good batting average as far as the good as opposed to the bad, whether it's the comics, the movies, animated movies, TV shows. So, like I always say, it's a good time to be a DC fan.
And we're always champions of watch the damn thing first. So even though I'm not super excited about a second Constantine film, I'll still see it. I'll still give it a shot. I'll still watch it. So that's the way it should be. Don't blow everything out of the water just because you don't think you're going to like it before you even see it. But something that is coming, we might not be getting Blackest Night. We are getting a whole season of Gotham Knights. It's wrapped filming season 1. But is it going to be one of those ones that makes it to a season 2, or will it be another one of those that gets cut due to the new slate of DCN TV that's coming? What do you make of this story?
I think that even will it get cut? That's hard to say, because the fan reaction to the trailers was not good, and that leaves me wondering. But back to the whole optimism thing, it could be good. I'm still going to watch it and see what happens. And I'm glad that they filmed the whole season. So I feel that even if something happens where they don't get to broadcast the whole season, that maybe they'll put the whole season up on streaming at some point, so that at least it'll exist and hopefully we can see it. Hopefully it won't be a Batgirl situation, because I'm a bit of a completist. So if I start a series, I'm going to want to finish it, even if I don't necessarily love it. I'll still want to see what happens. So, my fingers are crossed. I'm hoping the fans respond and hoping it's better than I think a lot of people are expecting it to be. But I'm kind of glad that a whole season is going to exist, and maybe that means that the bean counters are pretty optimistic themselves about how the reaction is going to be and the quality of the show. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a 2-hour movie that they can just can it and say, no, lesson learned, we're not going to release that. They filmed 20 episodes of TV. That has to be released. And
20 episodes, that's good. It's not like a smaller season. Some seasons, they're not sure how it's going to go, so they'll do 13, or at the most 16, or 8. But here we have 20, so that's interesting too. One thing I am super excited about is that I think you'll love this too. The Kite Man spin-off series of the Harley Quinn animated series is still in the works. Amid all the new announcements, that's still going forward. Thank you. What was your takeaway from this?
It's by the same people that make Harley Quinn. That has it for me. Job done. Same writers, same producers, same directors, same voice cast, same irreverent insanity, same violence, same nonsense, same innuendo. Take my money. Sign me up. I'm there. 100%. Kite Man TV show? Hell yeah. In the immortal words of Tom King, who, we have to admit, would we even have Kite Man if not for Tom King resurrecting the character and making him an icon of mediocrity? Listen, this Kite Man was a character who, before the Tom King run of Batman, I could have honestly forgotten about. He's like Stiltman from Marvel and Crazy Quilt, those villains that you just want to forget. But now I love the guy. His broken heart with Poison Ivy, and the way they're selling this show with Harley's a crazy crime drama. This is Cheers. Man, sold. I'm really looking forward to this. I hope we get it in the UK. We got Harley Quinn here, one of the few HBO Max DC Universe shows we got. So I'm hoping we get Kite Man as well. I mean, you got to be pumped as well, right?
Oh yeah, I can't wait. I wanted to see the continuation of his story anyway. This is one of those, if you would have told like a 10-year-old me, 12-year-old me, hey, there's going to be a Kite Man TV show, even if it's animated, years when you're
right,
when you're middle aged, I would just get out of here. But yeah, here we are, and I love it. And the fact that it's run by the same people that run the Harley Quinn show. It could, like you said, you could have a Crazy Cool show if it was run by the same guy. I'm all for it. So I can't wait to see what they do with this. I'm so psyched. And people out there, if you haven't watched the Valentine's special, watch it. You are in for a treat. So funny and longer than the regular episode. It was like a 40-minute episode, and you did get a little peek of Kite Man. So anyway, more please. They could. I'm just wishing that they would have a Bane spinoff, or King Shark spinoff, or Clayface spinoff. All those characters are so great.
It could happen.
Anything, Anything.
I think that Seth would be rooting for a Bane or Frank spinoff. I think he's right there for all of those.
Anything that gives Seth an opportunity to do the Bane voice. I'm there.
Anything that gives Seth the opportunity to do the Bane voice, I'm there. Definitely, 100%. Well, that brings us to the end of TV news. So let's step away from the screen and let's open the 4-color pages that inspired all of it. And very sadly, we're starting with some tragic news. Lee Moder, oh man, I love this guy's art. co-creator of Stargirl, has passed away at, for me, a very poignant age, 53, which is the age I will turn next month. So sad, and completely out of nowhere. You must be as heartbroken as all his fans.
Yeah, I mean, it's we've been losing a lot of artists. I mean, it's like it's been a rough 2 years for the comics industry. Lots of losses, and this is just another one. I loved his art. I loved his interpretation of the character, and I mean, obviously he was kind of the co-creator, but just the whole image that he created, I don't think we'd have the Stargirl TV show the way it is if it wasn't for his work, and that's just a shame. And so young, he should have had years and years more of work, and it's just a shame. I hate these stories, and I hope that we don't have to report on. It seems like every other week we have to talk about somebody else passing. It's just it's a bummer.
He's just one of those guys that, like you said, his Stargirl run was a massive influence on the TV series. I mean, huge. And he was just one of those artists who was more than just like a comic book artist who could slap a few heroes together and draw explosions and giant robots. I mean, he could do all that stuff with the best of them. But like you say, it's his storytelling, the way his characters emoted, his facial expressions, the body language. He's one of those brilliant storytellers in that, and it's because of him I think that Stargirl worked as a character every bit as much down to Jeff Johns' scripts. So this one, I feel this one quite a lot, because you probably do too, because we're both huge Stargirl fans. So it's so sad, but at DC Comics News, what we want to do is just send our love to Lee's family, his friends, and everyone who worked with him. I mean, we're fans. We're not quite as close to the subject matter or to the man himself as those people. So love, respect, and our deepest condolences to everyone who knew him.
Yep, absolutely. And a little happier news, Tom Taylor is going to cross over his Injustice world to the Adventures of Superman. You have to love this.
Injustice was the first Tom Taylor comic I read.
Me too.
And as soon as I read it, I thought, this guy's good. Because he said it many times. I mean, even in the recent interview that led to this article we're talking about this evening, he always said that he couldn't really be behind a Superman that did these things. He could never believe that our Superman would ever get to this, but to have the opportunity to write these stories and tell audiences about a Superman who did act this way was something that really stretched his creativity and made him the writer he is today. Because agreed, I mean, I don't think the Superman of our world would ever do that, no matter what he was tricked into doing. So this series has got me so excited. John Kent traveling through the multiverse. This for me is one of the big reasons why the reintroduction of the multiverse in Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths was a brilliant idea, because with Infinite Earths you've got infinite storytelling possibilities. And let's put it this way, Superman went crazy because he was tricked into killing a pregnant Lois Lane. Could that have been that universe's Jonathan, and having that child would mean that he'd remain the superheroic Superman that we know and love? So what's confronting his teenage son going to do to this dark Superman? I mean, I can't wait. And once you have a hero from our Earth visiting the Injustice Earth, both stories written by Tom Taylor, what's to stop a crossover with the Worlds of the Deceased universe, also created by Tom Taylor? I mean, like I said, these possibilities, loving it. How about you?
Yeah, I'm excited. Injustice was also my first Tom Taylor comic, and I remember reading the first trade and thinking, this
Whoa.
is so much better than I was expecting. I kept putting in, who is this Tom Taylor? Who is this guy?
Yeah.
And man, it was just so good. I still say that now we have two amazing video game adaptations. We have The Last of Us now, and we have the Injustice comics. Not only that, but it was based on a fighting game, which aren't necessarily known for the stories. But he captured exactly what, years of Superman going crazy. I mean, it was so good. And that makes me want to read anything that has his name on it. The fact that he's going back to that world
absolutely.
with the Superman, and like you said, the infinite storytelling, the Jonathan Kent conundrums. I mean, and if anybody can deal with that, I think Tom Taylor can do just an absolute amazing job. So I'm very excited about this. Anything that anything that has a 2 Toms name on it, I'm there for it. Tom Taylor, Tom King, they
Same.
are, and James Tynion. To me, those guys are the Alan Moore, Garth Ennis, Neil Gaiman of our current generation of comics. So yeah, I'm all about this. I'm really excited.
Considering it was based on a video game, it almost had no business being as brilliant as it was. Yeah. The only other comic book property that's based on a video game that's come even close to that, and again, I expected to hate it and had no business being as good as it was the Batman Fortnite crossover. That comic book series was awesome as well. So in Taylor we trust.
Yep. And we're also getting a Poison Ivy ongoing series. So that's kind of a cool thing. What was your take on this?
I adore G. Willow Wilson as a writer and as a person, actually. Now I've got to meet her at the recent Thought Bubble convention. She's just thoughtful, considerate, and she just comes across as someone who gets and loves these characters. So when I heard she was writing Poison Ivy, I thought, oh, that's awesome, but 6 issues, really? And then when issue 4 released, DC announced, no, we're extending it to 12. And I thought, 12 issues, oh, that's more like it. Brilliant. And I don't know if you've been reading the Poison Ivy miniseries, but I thought, man, I don't even know if 12 issues is going to be enough. She's killing it. She's introduced background characters that are awesome. And now Harley's been brought in. So to hear that it's now becoming an ongoing with the same creative team, this is music to my ears. This is the kind of news I love because honestly, Poison Ivy has now really, really hit her stride with both the success of the character in the Harley Quinn show and now this brilliant comic book. Poison Ivy's getting her time in the sun, and I hope she photosynthesizes her heart out and grows to immense proportions, taking over the fields and valleys and forests of the entire world. Ongoing series. I'm reading it.
Yeah, me too. I've been a fan of hers since the series she had on Vertigo, Air. When was that? 2000, 2000 and maybe 7, maybe even earlier than that. But I thought that series was a lot of fun. And then she went on to create one of, I think, one of the most important newer characters that went on to have a life much bigger than she was expecting, and that's Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
So, and
I've seen that run.
Oh yeah, it's great. And I've seen her also speak at panels at different conventions. Always has really good insight. So yeah, and I love the character of Poison Ivy, and I can't wait to see what she does with it. Going back to the Harley animated series, that's a great version of Ivy, and there's just been a lot of I like the Ivy stuff that we got in Fear State. And so I just think that there's a lot there that she can build on, and I haven't read the issue yet, so I'm waiting for the trade, but I'm really excited.
Trade's coming out of the first 6 issues. Yeah, it's imminent.
Yeah, and man, I think you're right. I think it's good that there was just so much to keep going. I have a feeling like she pitched it look, no, we can continue this and have all these ideas going forward. That I think we're going to be in for a treat with this series.
Sign me up.
Yep. And that brings us to the end of another episode of DC Comics News. Before we go, Steve, where can people find you out there in the world?
Most weeks, I'm going to try and make them all, if I can, on this wonderful show with my wonderful friends Brad, Seth, Kelly. Maybe we'll have Kendra back soon. Damien's now joined us, the site owner, and we're having fun again. I've missed this, and I'm so glad it's back. So right here, if you want to hear me, and actually now you can even see us as well, dear viewer, stroke listener, stroke DC fan. But to talk to me directly, you can always catch me on social media, most active on Twitter and Facebook, but Twitter's the easiest, just at LStevo, EL_STEEVO. I also write for DC Comics News, Dark Knight News, and the site I created, Fantastic Universes. To get to those, just type Steve J. Ray or Fantastic Universes into your search engine of choice to take you to my news, reviews, features and interviews across those 3 wonderful websites. And Brad, my brother, my Mr. Motivator of the couture, where can the world find you?
You can find me writing news reviews, DC Comics News. You can find me on Twitter at FlickyB1 and also on the Harley Quinn Mad Love podcast. Hopefully we'll get back to that soon. And I just, before we go, I just wanted to give a shout out to Reebok. I was hoping you'd be able to see the logo, but they have a really cool line of DC stuff out now, shoes, hoodies, t-shirts. So definitely visit Reebok's website and check that out if you're a DC fan. The stuff is really great. So yeah, definitely check that out. And what about you, Steve? Is there anything that you've been reading DC wise or watching that you wanted to mention?
I'm glad you asked. This Tuesday, Valentine's Day, Sandman, Book 5 is out, distributed by Penguin Random House, published by DC Comics. It collects the stuff that came after the initial 76-issue run by Neil Gaiman. This book is gorgeous. It sits lovely with the first 4 volumes on your bookshelf. This one contains the Sandman Midnight Theatre crossover, co-written by Matt Wagner. It contains the novella painted artwork version of The Dream Hunters, and it contains the complete Endless Lights graphic novel with 7 different stories based on the 7 different Endless. It's at a steal of a price, around $30. Pick it up for the Sandman Neil Gaiman fan in your life. They will thank you for it. Check out my review on DC Comics News. Definite must buy for any Sandman fan. And this book, actually, you can read by itself. And I'm sure if this doesn't get you hooked on the Sandman universe, nothing will. And it's the second to last book. Book 6 will be out at the end of the year. That will contain Overture. It will also contain the comic book version of Dream Hunters and this Neil Gaiman curated Sandman Universe issue 1, which led to all the brand new Sandman Universe books that we're currently reading and reviewing on DC Comics News for you now. So definitely give that a pick up. It's a great book. But hey, as we always say every week, everyone just needs to
read
more
comics. All right, have a good week, everybody.
Take care.